Hey Gamesline! We're here at the end of PAX weekend, and I am with David, the designer of Hyde's Haunt and Seek. And 1 year ago, we had a discussion. We had a talk about Hyde's Haunt and Seek, which is an asymmetrical horror game where there's a seeker that is trying to fight a bunch of ghosts.
That's right.
And so the ghosts get this top-down view, and they get to like manipulate the whole world with ghostly powers. And the person that is seeking them has a flashlight and is, you know, trying to zap them like it's. People have talked about it like it's Luigi's Mansion, type of thing. And so you got this cool asymmetrical multiplayer game. We talked last year about where the project was, and this is the first time, as someone who's gone to PAX a bunch of times, that I get to actually, you know, return to someone. See, how has the last year been for Hyde's Haunt and Seek, which was a game that last year I said was something that could easily be like an Among Us kind of like platform for a lot of other people to jump in on, just because of how accessible, accessible the gameplay is.
Right. The last year has been a large part of it has been about accessibility. We've essentially made it into a 2-button game, mostly. We've also implemented a tutorial. We've also simplified the game mechanics down quite a bit while still retaining the sort of emergent value that can still happen. So something that can happen when you simplify too much, you start taking away the possibilities, this possibility space, right?
That's the one, yeah.
We feel like we've come up with a pretty good solution for making things simple while still keeping the game sort of rich and have depth. We've also done, since PAX East, because we were at PAX East as well in Boston earlier this year, since then we've actually implemented 20 new pranks. Actually, I think when you saw it, there were no pranks.
There were no pranks.
The only prank
it was a prankless game.
Right, so the only pranks you were able to do were, I think, levitating objects and moving furniture around.
Yep.
So now we've got a bathtub that fills up with blood. It looks very ketchup-y, so not too. We're trying to keep things, you know, not too violent.
Gory, but you want to get that atmosphere.
Exactly.
So that's a prank.
It's spooky more than scary. We've got a skeleton that pops out at you from the wardrobe. We've got what else do we have? There's sort of like a vase, a potted plant where the plant turns into almost like a piranha plant from Mario and tries to take a bite out of you.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of just really silly, but the great thing is the game, the music sort of takes itself seriously. So you're hearing this like scary horror jump scare music, but
anytime that
there's really not anything that scary going on, but it creates kind of an amusing experience where scary things are jumping out at you, and you know, sometimes it actually does kind of startle you. You're not expecting it,
right?
But I think we found that good line between, you know, a little bit of spooks, not too hard on the scary, because that's how we think we're kind of separating ourselves from a lot of the other asymmetrical multiplayer horror multiplayer games out.
There is like this, you know, niche of asymmetrical horror games, and I don't necessarily compare this to Phasmophobia or something like that,
right?
Because the space that the tones it's playing with are kind of similar, but the space is like way more playful. In a lot of ways. Yeah,
Phasmo is great because you feel like, I don't know, it feels like it could be real almost at times.
But you're looking for cartoon horror,
right?
You want to play pranks. You want to have a little whimsy.
And then we've also got the asymmetry going on, whereas Phasmophobia is, I think,
like a strictly kind of
PvE. Or PvP.
There is another game being played, but it's by machines somewhere else.
Pretty much, and then just going back to the simplicity of it too. Like, it's essentially a 2-button game, so it's supposed to be something that you can kind of just jump in and play. And we're still working on that. We're still figuring out a lot of things that are kind of, you know, sort of gotchas right now in the demo.
From what you've talked about, since you're the designer of all of this, the opportunity space when you add in all these pranks, seems to like that's a great place to balloon outwards and and fun things to do.
It allows you, I think, especially in this particular build, in this particular demo, you feel the ghosts can also hear the music, and they're also seeing the animations play out of the pranks that they're doing.
Yes.
And there's this really cool feeling of, I feel like I'm giving you I'm creating a horror movie for you to experience, like as you go in, and that is like kind of the first time where as a ghost at least, I'm really starting to feel that kind of almost cinematic experience.
That feels so fruitful, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah. To see all these people come through and play it, you just learn so much about the game. And then we go home, and every time after one of these events, we go home and we think hard, and we're like, all right, what are we going to do now to make this thing even better, right?
Last year was your first exhibit of the game.
Right.
And during that time, we talked about how your kind of identity at the time was like, we just wanted people to try this out. We hope it tests well.
Yeah.
We hope a publisher sees us and sees what we're doing and gets it. There's kind of like a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kind of thing to it. But now, since then, you've done multiple exhibitions.
Yeah.
And how has things grown from those exhibitions, especially this one? We're at the end of this, so you've got some fresh, like,
I mean, it's crazy.
Thoughts and ideas.
People recognize us. It's kind of weird. We were at the Mix earlier this year. We did DreamHack, and people will come up to us and be like, "Oh, I've seen you before at a different event or online or something." So we've built a small following, and that's really
small games following.
Yeah, SMOL.
Sorry. Yeah.
And we've got some wish lists now, and that's really helpful for publishers to see because it shows, this is something people want, right? This thing has legs, and so I would say just the exposure and, again, like I said, the amount of information we've learned about our own game. Kind of can't do it any other way. I feel like even if we were to do it online, it's not like I'm looking over everybody's shoulders who's actually playing it, and that's kind of where I think a lot of the value of these events
actually
really
getting
through.
To see people with their hands on the controller.
Because people, they'll give feedback, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback, but there's kind of nothing like just seeing how people are actually approaching different situations in the game.
Yeah.
To really understand, okay, what's going on.
I don't think that's something you would have thought about a year ago,
Probably
being
not.
In your first exhibition. So now you've gotten to the point where it's like, all right, I'm going to find some people to wish list this. I'm going to find some people I'm going to give them different, like, activations,
Yeah.
So your approach to exhibiting is totally different now.
Right.
And I think it's shown in how you've decorated and dressed up the whole booth.
We've made some minor, we'll evolve our approach each time. I think last year during PAX East we introduced lighting on the banner, so that was among some other things. But
it's all design. No, that's amazing. So, what's the next goals for Hyde's Haunted Seat?
Well, next goal, we need to hopefully land some sort of publishing agreement. That's kind of our next big major thing.
You now have multiple, like, feathers in your cap from all of this exhibiting.
Yes, and so getting that kind of figured out is kind of our, that'll allow us to actually start working towards some sort of an early access that people can get their hands on. I think that, without necessarily committing to anything, I would love at some point to get a Discord going where we just get people playing the game,
I have heard a lot of developers having success with, even before early access, having a Discord together.
Definitely even before early access, and just testing, maybe every weekend perhaps, or maybe twice a week or something. Because these multiplayer games, obviously, they live and die based on the balance of it. Is it fun for the ghost? Is it fun for the at what in what situations is it really not fun for the seeker or not fun for the ghost? And don't forget the bugs, right?
Of course,
the glitches with multiplayer are numerous,
especially online, and that's all stuff that you can't really do on your own.
All the chaos. I feel like it makes development like probably 4 times harder if you're doing multiplayer, at least from an engineering standpoint.
4 times however many players you're trying to connect, right? It just explodes outward.
Yeah.
So there's you, there's Morgan.
Right.
But I see this is a 3-player game.
Yeah, well, it's actually, the plan is, the hope is to do 1v4.
Yes.
That's kind of always been our goal.
But there's literally not enough of you at Small Games to put together, to
we may
field
be
an
small,
entire...
but we have a good we have good friends. We have a good amount of friends and go-to people and people that we meet at these events. We've actually met quite a few streamers, particularly I think a year ago. I think it was a year ago. I might be mixing up my events now, but you know, we have sort of like a posse of like streamers that we hit up and we're like, hey, we need some like footage or we need some help testing this, right?
Yep.
So, but yeah, we're always able to find people to help us test it.
And use your spectral flashlight to seek the ghost with ease. Then blast them with your spectral beam to absorb their energies. When you power up your flashlight, you'll see arrows on the ground. Keep them in view, for they point to where keepsakes can be found. Hides haunt and seek, not for the faint or meek. Ghouls and ghosts will start to shriek at Hyde's haunt and seek. The spirits of the manor hide your keepsakes all around. The more skillfully you hide them, the less likely they'll be found. With your powers of possession, move furniture and more. The guest tonight will get a fright and run right out the door.
I heard that at the beginning of last year, y'all popped off on TikTok.
Yeah,
People liked Gramps doing his thing.
They nicknamed our clown character Gramps, which stuck. And we call him Gramps. And
So how has like the community evolved over the last year? Is it still TikTok focused? Or?
You know, we had to. We weren't able to do as much TikTok content in the last
but I like
year,
that you tried. Because that was never a thing you expected.
We wanted to get back to it. We just didn't realize how hard it would be to do. You know, I think at one point we might have been doing like a couple videos a day, and it was like, you know. But we're really looking forward to getting back into it. TikTok in particular. TikTok is the most fun social media platform for us, like to get onto and to do videos for, and we've built up a good community, a very small community of people that are like waiting for content. So
that's kind of cool. That's really I feel like there's hundreds of devs out here from all sorts of places, and they all find their own own places, their own rivers.
Totally.
Because there's no like roadmap that you can just follow and be like, oh yeah, my game is a Tumblr game, or you can't just say that.
I mean, that's been definitely one of the great things about getting on TikTok. One of the great things about getting here, I feel I can sort of spot the type of person that might be interested in our game. You know, if you've got blue or purple hair, you know, if you're wearing spooky, you're not wearing spooky stuff. But if I see people wearing like stuff, you know, it's like, okay, I can kind of tell there's. So you kind of get a feel for who your audience is doing it this way. I really believe that.
When you see a juggalo walk by, you're like, all right, come on in, buddy. I got something for you.
Right.
Yeah, it's easy, right?
Yeah.
For the development of the game, what's next? You're looking at early access, but ways down the pipe,
we have I think we need to figure that out actually. There are.
I'm asking you on a Monday of PAX after 4 days of exhibiting.
I'm trying to pick in my mind one thing. So lately, there's a lot of design stuff that I'm watching this, and we've had ideas, and by watching people play, I'm thinking like, okay, no, I do think this is the right direction. I think pranks need to be a little bit more dangerous to you now, to the Seeker. Right now, pranks are.
Are you seeing that the Seeker is winning more often than the
No, it's not so much that. It's sometimes the Seeker will miss a prank. The prank goes off, and the Seeker's just kind of minding. You know, they end up walking by too quickly to really see what happened.
That's tricky, because the person who's seeking is very focused on one job.
And we don't.
And you're trying to haunt them
exactly,
while also you're trying to distract them, which is inherently not what the Seeker wants to have happen.
And we've been trying to avoid doing a thing where we we like, get the Seeker's camera to move toward the object, because we want this thing ultimately to be playable in VR, and that's a big no-no in VR. You can't just suddenly like move the camera, that'll make people sick, right?
Yeah,
so,
or lock the camera in a place. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, so we're thinking every time a prank goes off, the Seeker, it would be great if the Seeker had some ability to defend themselves from the prank. Maybe if the prank lands on them, or I don't exactly know, but
they have to interact with the
maybe
prank
it
in
could
some
just
way.
literally be like almost like a quick time event, like a button press, like I blocked with my flashlight, or I blasted, or something to like.
Oh, that's cool.
Something to incentivize the Seeker to actually be like, oh my god, a prank is going on. Let me deal with this right now.
Something to guide them away from what they're doing, break them out of the
and that might actually solve another gameplay problem that I'm having, which is if I know that if you're a ghost and you're possessing a furniture, and I'm a Seeker and I know you're in that furniture, it's going to be hard for you to escape. If I know it, but if there's something to do where if you do the prank immediately when you fly away, and if if that prank lands on me,
that interaction does need a mix-up.
Yeah,
it needs like an escape out of a certain side of the. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's this kind of thing, and there's like a whole bunch of other things we've been talking about.
I need people to like shoot out the top of it and go up high instead of to the side.
Yeah. We've also been looking at, a lot of people love the mechanic, the haunt mechanic, where the ghost has to move furniture in a certain arrangement. The Seeker is trying to spot them in the midst of doing that, and so it's a really interesting dynamic going on. We're thinking of taking that to the main gameplay as well.
Yeah.
And if you could pull off a special arrangement of furniture, you could do like a room scale prank that involves the entire room. I don't know exactly what it would be, but we've had ideas, for these. So there's a lot of game mechanic stuff that we're thinking about. But
that's amazing. And you've got a little bit of time and runway to play around with it.
Yeah. And then on top of that, though, like we got to have progression elements. We've got a lot of interesting ideas for progression.
Right. You've got the tutorial looks great. All of the pranks have been very fun to watch. The tutorial's awesome. That worked out. The visual effects on the flashlights those are all new to me. They look awesome.
Thank you.
It's like, this game makes a lot of sense now.
Everything needs a healthy coat of polish on it. Getting a tech artist would help tremendously. There's certain personnel an animator, for example. So getting more of that kind of help would allow us to build out the game.
Yeah.
We want to do more levels. We want to do more characters. Be able to unlock characters. More keepsakes.
Yes.
Keepsakes are we've been talking about doing, they're related to lore. So if you find more keepsakes, you can bring them back to your little collection and then use those to unlock lore, basically, and find out more what the mystery of
Hyde's deal.
Right. Yeah. Why are these ghosts here? What's the history of this house? That sort of thing.
That's so cool. No, I love where your mind's at, and I love how you're like seeing the future vision of this project that you've been working on for so long.
Thank you.
And it's cool to see it.
Awesome.
Normally, I would be asking like, oh, when's it coming out and stuff like that, and where's it coming out? It's like, that's not really where this is at, and I don't think that's appropriate here. The thing that's really exciting is, hey, there's some secret ways that you might be able to get access to Hyde, Haunt, and Seek in the future.
Right.
And that's the activation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if people wishlist us, that helps us out a ton. If you follow us on Twitter, that helps us out a ton. Anything to show publishers like this is something people want helps us out.
Yep. Which is an odd but like totally cool call to arms. Like if that's the thing that you're asking from fans and stuff, it's like, yeah, all right, we gotta get on the ground floor of all this.
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I've loved being able to keep up with Hyde, Haunt, and Seek, and I want to more. I will be around to see how this all develops. I think there's something really cool here.
Well, we're not going anywhere.
Yep.
So.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's great talking with you.
Go get some rest.
I will.
PAX is over.
Yeah.
Let's sleep.
Yeah, totally. Same to you. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
It's been a lot.